From chaos to clarity. So today I want to present you a simple system for composing music. Before we jump into the concepts, just for context, these are a few companies that my business partner Thomas Jace Jones and I have worked for, and through this experience we extracted a lot of concepts and techniques that helped us get these jobs done. We run a community based on interval magic. We call it the Circle of Interval Magicians. I also put the link into the description box. So let's jump right in. For a long time, my composition process pretty much looked like this. We had a start and then a lot of decisions. Like every short line here represents a decision. And then at some point we end up with a finished composition. Now the problem with that is, as you can tell, it's not very organized, and eventually you get to a great result. Well, let's assume it's great, but you get to a result, but it's not really efficient. So wouldn't it be better to have something that looks more like that, where we streamline the process a bit more? In short, we want to find a process that helps us find more of the good decisions, and we want to reduce the amount of the bad decisions. In theory, this all sounds great, I know. So the question is, how do we do this? So here we have a pyramid that shows 3 stages. And what we want to get to is really just the top part of the pyramid. That's the composition, the final development, as we call it here in the graphic. What if we started with that? This actually creates lots of problems because there are so many little decisions before we actually get to the finished composition. In fact, we want to start at the bottom, which is the gathering, and then we move into the sketching, and then we move into the development. And by following this order and these 3 steps, we ensure that we find more of the good decisions and reduce the bad decisions. Now let's jump into some more details for each of those sections so that you get a better idea of what they include. I want to start with the gathering. That's really the moment where, well, inspiration kicks in and ideas happen. And these ideas include themes, musical motifs, melodic fragments, or some chords, chord progressions even. You can put down some textures, sounds, interval combinations even. This all is your personal source of inspiration. There is no wrong way to gather ideas, right? So just use whatever comes to your mind that you feel is appropriate for the idea that you want to realize. Now from there, we transition into the sketching phase. So through the gathering, we have a lot of ammunition, so to speak, for the sketch. And the sketch is all about organizing these little ideas. So we outline the overall structure and the sections of the composition. This might include something like a chorus or, the verse, transitions, modulations, an intro, the ending. And we define the hit points if we score to picture. So for example, important turning points in the story, they usually should be hit with the music. So you have to prepare that. You can't just expect to start composing in bar number 1 and then you magically hit all of these hit points on a downbeat. That's not gonna happen. That's exactly what the sketch is for. So it's our musical skeleton in a way. Once we have this, the next step and the final step is to flesh out the parts. So we go into arranging mode and we orchestrate the ideas. So that's also the moment where we add all the details for the instruments like articulation, dynamics, even the section sizes. And we want to put down all the information that is important. And now you also start seeing why it's not really a good idea to start with the development stage. Because you would literally look at the blank page. Well, what's my theme actually? What is my goal where I want to go to? Are there any hit points even? Do I have the freedom to orchestrate stuff the way I want, or is this, following a storyline that I want to respect? These are questions that you have to answer before, so that you actually have the freedom at the development stage to focus on these details. Now, I don't want to stop here with this concept, but I want to show you how these things apply to an actual composition. So let's jump into Cibelios and let me show you what I did. So here we are looking at the gathering, and I'm referring to the first line only. So this is an intervallic approach to come up with some ideas, and in fact it is the spell 1.1 that we explain inside the community. So funnily enough, in the whole sketch, I did not make it over the first structure here. So that gave me enough material to work with to create the full sketch. So they all follow a pattern. That is a 6 interval, and that's always a 5 interval down there. And I'm referring to chromatic steps when I say 6 or 5. Now from there, I just look at the first bar, please. You will see that I jump into the sketch, which is now shown in the next line. So I literally just took the A flat and the D, put it down in this register, and I borrowed the C from this guy here, and I created this 3-part structure. Now you might ask, Frank, where's the F now? This is the beginning of the melody there, and I'm using the F to start a little melodic idea. And I'm analyzing it, intervallically, which means I'm counting the distances from one note to the next in chromatic steps. And that is how I got to this horizontal formula here. So all of these numbers, they stand for chromatic distances. So I'm writing down some ideas based on the different positions that I got out of these position changes, and use some color coding to just help me stay on top of these ideas. So from there, this is pretty much the sketch, and this led to the development. So let's have a quick look at the orchestration. So this is now the orchestral version of the sketch that we just looked at. I've included the sketch down here, but we won't hear it. This is just for my own organization. I want to play you the first few bars to give you the idea of how this developed. Here we go. Okay, so it was a rather short piece and we made it through the whole thing. And if you find this useful and helpful, then please check out the QR code, and I offer mentoring on how to compose with the intervals.